Nithyanandam Paramashugadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasyadiraksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadi Sakshibhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami. That always sounds so good when you do it with somebody, like the prayer. Anytime you do a prayer by yourself, it's good, but when you're on the same vibration, the same, like going at the same time, it just feels so good always. So I love collabing with you, honey.
Glad to hear it.
Welcome back to Yoga from the Source, everybody. My name is Sri Nithyananda Dridhananda, and this is
Manitya Prasiddhananda. And we're excited to get started on the next episode live with you guys here as well. And we're going to be sharing today all about Kundalini energy, Kundalini awakening, and answering some common, questions and understandings and misconceptions and everything.
Yeah, we had a good, we had a really fun evening last night. We brought some friends and family all together, and it was nice to have. It was kind of like our not Thanksgiving. We don't really celebrate Thanksgiving, but we had a bunch of vegans all together, and they were all friends. So we're starting to call it Friends Vegan rather than Thanksgiving. And then after that, we all gathered and watched our Guru's satsang, Bhagavan Nityananda's satsang, and enjoyed the meditations and had some good conversations. And one of the things that kept coming up in the conversations that I was involved in was asking about Kundalini and Kundalini Awakening and what my experience was like. And I realized that not everybody's experience of Kundalini is the same. And it doesn't necessarily mean, and some people might be like, is my Kundalini even awakened? And it very well could be, but you just maybe haven't picked up to the actual signs of that yet. And each one of us has their own Kundalini journey. I mean, for me, in 2014, I went to Swamiji's program, Inner Awakening, and it was absolutely amazing. We could speak all day on Inner Awakening itself, but during the program, Swamiji did a meditation called the Nityananda meditation, the life bliss meditation. And during the life bliss meditation, at the very end, he goes, Om Namah Shivaya. And in that moment, as soon as he said that, I felt this spark shoot up from the base of my spine. And it didn't go like all the way up to the crown center, and it wasn't just like all of a sudden I was like enlightened, or it was just this very subtle sensation that happened, and it shot up to about the height of my belly button, but it was like a sharp little spark. And I just knew in that moment, I was like, oh, like my Kundalini was just awakened. And here I was actually sitting on a chair. My hips were so tight in those days. I was still a professional ice hockey player, and we were known for tight hips. I couldn't sit on the floor longer than 5 minutes. And all of a sudden, I go and sit on this chair, and Swamiji just says this one line, and all of a sudden my Kundalini is awakened. And that is the grace of the Guru, and how simple it is. A lot of people, they're Kundalini yoga teachers, and their Kundalinis aren't awakened, and they've been teaching for 25 years. That is the importance of Guru. And I wanted to just say this one scripture before we jumped into a little bit more on Kundalini awakening and whatnot. And this one's from Hatha Pradipika Svatmarama, chapter 5, verse 2. Svatmarama says, when the dormant Kundalini gets aroused by the grace of Guru, then alone the Padmas, the lotus chakras, and the Granthis, the knots, get pierced. So when the dormant Kundalini gets aroused by the grace of the Guru, and this is just one pramana that we're referencing today, but ultimately there's so many different pramanas, scriptural references that speak on Guru. The grace of Guru awakens Kundalini. And from my experience, that's all that happened. I did not do years and years of tapas, and it just kind of happened in that one moment. And my experience was like this, like I said, this sharp little spark that raised from the base of the spine. Maybe would you be interested in sharing, like, did you have a moment yourself where because we never actually talked about that, where like, did you feel like all of a sudden like, ooh, Kundalini got awakened?
Yeah, I remember it was also in my first program in India with our guru, and there was a few times where I was feeling like I didn't know if it was happening or not, and I was kind of like seeing everybody else's experiences and comparing myself and seeing like, why is that not happening to me? Like, why? Because everybody experiences it really differently, and I think that's important to note as well. Just like we are all individual souls, individual consciousness, we experience it differently, and our bodies react differently. And Swamiji's even shared that certain bodies physically react more than others. Certain people, like, they'll have a very strong physical reaction to energy in general, to Kundalini or to any type of initiation. They have a lot of physical shock. And he said it's sometimes, I think he said it has to do with like your muscle memory strength or something like that, and just like sometimes your past births and just like the strength of your nervous system now.
Yeah, certainly.
But it's not a bad thing or a good thing. It's just different, and people experience it differently. And I remember like I wasn't having any one moment for a while, the first like week or two of the program, and then I think it was the second week, that by the end of the second week of our program, that I felt this one process where I felt completely just in a different space of consciousness. Like I didn't even feel myself as myself. Like I didn't feel like the I in me. I didn't feel that ego at all. And I was just in this nothingness, but this nothingness space, but in a positive way. Like it wasn't like a darkness. It was like a liberation. And I was in that nothingness space as I was still interacting with the outside world. Obviously, we were with like 500 people and we were doing meditation processes and everything. But we were sitting in one mandala process like we used to do in the programs with Swamiji, which were so powerful. And all of a sudden what started happening was I felt literally, I mean, and it's described, if you aren't familiar, you guys, with the way Kundalini is often described, as a serpent, right? It's often depicted as a snake. And it's a very accurate description, honestly, because for those of you that know what I'm talking about, you actually feel it very much as that movement. It really feels like that snake-like energy, a serpent type movement, and like this electricity. And it does move, like it moves and wiggles up your spine, like physically located on the spine, right? But we know that's also the chakras. And so it moves upwards like this, and you can feel a lot of different sensations from that itself. And I remember I had totally felt that happening, and it was like I couldn't not have perfect posture.
Yeah.
I couldn't, and I have a very, very bad back in general, like over my life, because I've had really bad posture. Being a really tall girl, I always was slouching, and especially
why were you slouching though?
Wanted to make myself smaller.
Okay, there you go.
And the first program, I was still like, I had such bad posture, and it was very hard for me to sit straight, and it would hurt my back a lot. And that's what was so profound. I noticed an observation of the self as I was kind of looking like a third-party viewer into my own body. I was feeling like this is crazy. I'm like perfectly erect, and I have zero pain. And I remember it lasted for at least 10 hours where I couldn't even slouch if I wanted to, and I didn't feel any strain in my muscles or tiredness, which I get in like 30 minutes of sitting straight normally. So that was like a proof to me that something was happening beyond what I understood. And then the biggest thing which happened for me that I was like, whoa, this is kind of weird. And I was a little freaked out at first, but I just, kind of surrendered and let it happen, was I did physically start moving for the first time without wanting to. I mean, without intending to move, my body started moving.
Oh, like the shaking.
So they actually call that a form of levitation. Levitation is not just floating. It's also any movement which is not created by your own muscle, your own nervous system, basically. It's involuntary movement. And so I was sitting, and literally I started going in circles, like little circles like this. My spine, from my spine, the base of my spine, up obviously through my torso, which would be my crown center, right? The Sahasrara chakra. And I was going in little loops, like a little DNA spiral. And I was just like going like this, and I couldn't stop. And was like consciously, of course, I had never had any experience like this my whole life. So I was like, I didn't even know this was possible. What is happening to my body? And so I thought maybe it's psychosomatic. Maybe I'm doing this without knowing that I'm doing this. So I was consciously trying to stop my movement, and I was like I was trying to like squeeze and like not let myself move. So while I was sitting there and, and sitting on the floor, and I was trying to like hold myself. And then it would last like maybe a second or two, and then it was like the gravitational pull started again, and I couldn't get out of it. And I was like, this is bizarre. And I just kept trying to do that for hours. And that experience, that first time that happened, it lasted for, over 10 hours at least. And through the night, we were up until like 2 a.m. that night, I think. And weirdly enough, too, even after I got up out of that process, out of that meditative space, and we were standing in line for darshan, which is like meeting the guru one-on-one, and getting to talk to him. Mm. We were in these long, long lines that would last seriously like 6 to 8 hours of standing in line. And I was in line for that long. And as I was standing upright, my whole body was just going in circles. And I was like, sorry, guys, everyone around me is like, what's going on? And I was like, I literally can't stop it. I know this is so weird. I'm sorry. I'm making a scene. And I couldn't stop the swirling. And that was just one experience that I had. But it was a really incredible experience to just see that. To me, that was like an evidence of the reality of it, because even if you have like an emotional experience or whatever, some part of your logical mind tries to write those experiences off, and tries to say, maybe it was just my head, maybe I just decided to be super blissful. Maybe, I don't know, like I just don't understand it. But to have that physical happening to me was really strong proof to me that there was that energy really exists. Like it really is there. It's not just something we're coming up with in our head, and
and I want to kind of veer off that too, because a lot of people, they don't know if their Kundalini is awakened. And somebody was even asking, when I went to Inner Awakening in 2014, we had 22 physical darshans with Swamiji, and in 21 days. And my mother had actually come along with me during the program. It was mainly because she wanted to just be with me, and it wasn't necessarily she was a seeker or anything. And at that point in her life, she was still drinking alcohol, eating meat, and not like she wasn't like an alcoholic. She's not an alcoholic or anything, but she like occasionally has alcohol. And here I was in a very intense state of seeking. I had no meat for, it was probably half a year at this point. I was very much like in the process of detoxifying my body, and I was just seeking truth. Yeah. And so in that program, I have to believe that because of the depth of my space compared to hers, and the biomemory and the muscle memory that was now being cleansed in my body was a little bit more so than what was happening with her, then I would say that's why I had this experience as opposed to her. However, I would still argue that her Kundalini was awakened during that program. Even watching one of Swamiji's oneness capsules or performing the Pratama Vinyasa Krama, the 108 asana sequence, those themselves are initiations into third eye awakening and Kundalini awakening. And even though you may not feel like this shooting of energy piercing through the grundis, through the knots, it does not mean that has not happened for you.
Yeah.
Your Kundalini would be awakened. You're just experiencing it in a different way. And I would say, based on the depth of your seeking, based on the depth of your being, that's what's going to reflect that outer world experience, or that physical experience that you have.
Yeah, I was definitely going to say the same. We were kind of having a discussion last night about this, and I at least in my experience and observation of thousands of people I've seen have Kundalini awakenings throughout the last few years, not just myself, but like witnessing how many people have, what I have noticed is it's not like somebody's qualified or not to get Kundalini awakening, no, but it's beyond like just the physical body being ready or not, or the emotional body being ready or not, but it's like from a being level, from that consciousness level, people who are really surrendered or extremely longing for something more or extremely seeking something deeper, that's what I saw. Like, even if somebody was kind of like a little like aloof and a little kind of weird and crazy and didn't know so much what was going on, they could still have a really powerful experience, because it wasn't just about their mind. It was about that seeking, their conscious power. And so, yeah, I think that's exactly what I would explain it as, that it's not that you're qualified or not to have it, but that seeking is the ultimate thing for sure. That conscious desire, that conscious willingness and surrender to that energy also, because that's one thing I wanted to share too, is that when I've had a lot of people throughout the years on my YouTube channel as well have concerns with the Kundalini energy being overwhelming for them, or feeling like too much, and people get kind of scared by it. And I understand it's an extremely powerful force. It is actually probably the most powerful force we have as human beings is our Kundalini Shakti, the 100%. Kundalini power. That's where even sexual energy comes from, but that's only one dimension of the Kundalini. And so there's so much potent energy there. It's like our inner potential energy. I think that's literally what our guru describes it as, is your inner potential energy, which I really like that explanation, and it's very accurate. When you play around with it, you see, but it's really, you can help yourself in that journey, make it easier though, because when you have a resistance and you have a fear, a lot of that will manifest. You'll start to feel and resist the experiences that are happening to you. And if you start going down that route, it can be scary. But if you're coming from a right context, and a really important fact too is just to be guided properly, because when you can absolutely have your Kundalini messed with, so to speak. It's again such a powerful force that when it's not done in the spiritual scientific way that has been outlined in all of the Hindu scriptures and Buddhist scriptures for thousands of years, and they tell you the ways that you can properly awaken it and deal with it and initiate it and use it. But when we don't follow that and we kind of play around on our own, or we're initiated by somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, or we're initiated by a being who is not yet enlightened, that can absolutely have an effect on our bodies and our minds because of that Kundalini force. And so we do have to be careful. It definitely has to be taken with precaution, but not with fear. You know, you have to be safe, but also not fearful. And I think you can help yourself. Maybe you can talk about this. You can't help yourself in the process, though. That being said, like saying that what we were just saying about consciousness being the most important thing in seeking that experience, aside from that, you absolutely can help yourself with aligning your body and your mind. And maybe you can like talk about how you could be blocking yourself in certain ways and toxifying yourself in certain ways, and how you can kind of clear those chakras, clear the channels.
Yeah. And that ties in good, because I saw somebody ask the question, can Kundalini go back to sleep if the user becomes disconnected? And the answer is absolutely yes. If, for instance, you choose to go to Inner Awakening, or Swamiji awakens your Kundalini, my mom example, same program we went to, she's since gone back and now continues to eat meat. However, me, on the other hand, I have not. As soon as you eat meat, as soon as you drink alcohol, as soon as you're doing something that's completely against the flow of Kundalini, I would say, the very concept of eating meat, for instance, is it's you're living a violent lifestyle. You're not established in ahimsa, in advaita, in non-violence and oneness. And this is affecting right away your biomemory or your muscle memory. So if you are, let's say, Kundalini awakened and you choose to eat meat right away, like that's disconnecting. It's like cutting off the cord, the umbilical cord to Paramashiva, to your Kundalini potential energy that is just wanting to express. You've completely just blocked that from happening. Now, from my experience, ever since my Kundalini was awakened, I like nurtured it. It was like Swamiji gave like a baby to you. And it's like, take care of this now. This is yours. Like enjoy, run with it. Like have an amazing life playing with this energy. And when you do, and you cherish it, and you do all of the proper things needed for that to express more, it becomes so much more of like just a blissful lifestyle, a more powerful lifestyle. And from my experience, I can say that as soon as Swamiji released, because in 2014 the Pratama Vinyasa Krama wasn't released, his official yoga sequence, and when it became released, though, in what was that, 2016, Rajashekar Vinyasa Krama was released, right?
16?
Yeah.
No, it was 17.
2017. So when it was first revealed in 2017, and all of a sudden Swamiji starts incorporating all these different 12 components as well, including, for me, the bandhas is by far like the most.
They're very powerful.
They're so powerful. If you're a yoga practitioner and all you're doing is asanas, you're missing out on, in my opinion, like 99% of what your practice could be. You are missing out so much if you're not including the bandhas. The bandhas, I compared this the other day to, if you know what a deadlift is, when you go to the gym, it's like you lift the heaviest weight possible, and it's just this bar on the ground, just hold it with your hands and pick it up. That's the exercise. It's the very dense, heavy weight that you're picking up. Your Kundalini is like this really dense, heavy weight that's laying like mystically somewhere, like you can't see it, but it's in the base of your spine, and you got to pick it up. And the way you do that is, one, purifying all the nadis, making sure your system is detoxified so that the Kundalini can glide up nicely in a sense. And when you're engaging the bandhas, specifically in various different asanas, that's like the actual deadlift, where you're lifting up this life force energy, and you can pull it up. And like now today, I can play with, like, I could stop and do whatever I want, just like completely get blissed out and high on Kundalini, just because I can play with it so much now because of this training, or this tapas that I've gone through, my spiritual sadhana, my practice. And so 100% you should cherish that energy, and you can maximize its potential through yoga, through the actual practices, which Swamiji's already revealed. And you can do this through the Nitya meditation, which is the life bliss meditation. It's very active, dynamic meditation. The Samskara Dhyana Kriya, which is the completion process. That is a complete detoxification of your entire body. The asanas, the bandhas, the Pratama Vinyasa Krama in general. All of these things are just more tools to put in your toolkit to make your Kundalini even more powerful.
Absolutely. I think, like you were saying, to really understand it, it is inside every human being. It's just lying dormant in most of us. And the reason it's dormant is just because of all the toxification of our body and our mind, which is only a part of our body, really. Our mind is considered an extension of our body in yoga and in Ayurveda. It doesn't really have an independent existence. So it is one and the same with your body. So the way we physically have been toxified by our food, by our medicines, and by our environment, and then emotionally, mentally toxified by our painful experiences and wrong cognitions of life from childhood and from throughout our day to day, all of that blocks that. And so, I think actually if we had to like give a little more refined where to start, I would maybe suggest working on each chakra, which our guru actually has like a really amazing introduction satsangs, which are like little discourses on each chakra, along with a meditation and awakening of that chakra process. And so if you just look on Nithyananda YouTube channel, that's some of the best content. Even if you don't feel like he's your guru, even if you don't feel like you've seen any of his stuff, it actually really doesn't matter, because it's really valuable information, I feel like. And you can use that to help, because your Kundalini cannot move if one chakra is blocked. So for example, what if you have an initiation into it, right? Or maybe you've at some point experienced it, but if you have a blockage in your Anahata chakra in your heart center, it can't go past it. And I felt this. So I've had multiple times throughout the years where I could feel it getting stuck. Literally, I could feel it move and then stop in certain areas. And it was almost always in my heart center or my throat chakra, my Vishuddhi chakra. And the way you can do that is by focusing on healing what those chakras represent and what the energy that they hold, whether it's, emotional pain, which is often held in our heart, or fear patterns, which are held in the Ananda center, or if it's a lack of verbalizing our truth or living out of authenticity, can be stuck in our throat chakra. So like this, we can align our life and go through particular processes of working on each of those, which is going to really help, I think, to awaken the Kundalini. But I mean, if you had to even just do one thing, it would be life bliss meditation, because it targets every single one, right? The process you go through each one, and you do a little, it's shorter too, and it's a great place to start, for sure. It's a great place to start.
The way I would start is the Shuddhi Kriyas, cleansing the body physically, then performing yoga, the Pratama Vinyasa Krama. Then, of course, puja. If you're not initiated into puja, if you've missed out on the Atmalinga process, there is another initiation. If you don't know what that is, you can check out. I recently did a video on that on my personal channel. And then that is our spiritual routine, which awakens each layer of the body. However, if you're for some reason wanting to not do any of those, and you're refusing to do anything yoga related, etc., the next thing for sure would be life bliss meditation. And but the life bliss meditation would only be more powerful, more like potent, if you did do that full morning routine. But 100%, if you're wanting, whether your Kundalini is awakened or not, it is as simple as watching a oneness capsule, which is watching Swamiji give a darshan, which is
an energy initiation, basically.
And these days he's not doing them physically. Only those that have been blessed to be in his physical presence have had that. And I mean, even like I said, my first inner awakening, we had 22 physical initiations. So he'd put his thumb in right onto the third eye and awaken 22 times in 21 days. It's like amazing.
But I think I just wanted to add on, like at the end here, before we take questions, that I think that it's really important, again, to know and be educated about these spiritual sciences, because it's like when you experience them and learn about them, and more importantly, when you experience them directly, it's like you wish you could shout it from the rooftops, like to tell all these human beings who have zero clue what life could really be like. It's like you have been living colorblind, and all of a sudden you can actually see color. It's like that with Kundalini Awakening, and it's so beautiful and so beneficial to our life in every dimension. It only brings more and more completion and wholeness and high energy and so much just pure bliss from inside of ourselves, regardless of outside circumstances. That's what the power of Kundalini is. It's that causeless bliss and causeless joy that can radiate in you. And there's so much to experience and experiment with in our own bodies. And I wish that we didn't live in a world that put so much fear about those sciences into us from a young age. And we have to do a lot of work to get through that, but it's so worthwhile in the end. It's so worth it. And you can really just experience so much powerfulness of your own self and in your own life when you have access to your Kundalini energy. It's literally the powerhouse of you. Anytime you have even felt, some of the happiest moments of your life, or if you felt where you're creating something, like doing some art, and you just feel like you're totally in the zone and just so blissful and inspired, zero thoughts happening. Those are just glimpses of what it's like to be in the space of having that access to that Kundalini energy. Those are just little glimpses of what it's like. And you can, like Dridha said, you can literally access it. Once it's awakened and you're doing enough to just keep your body clean, which is not too hard once you get through like the process of cleaning out all the shit. You can maintain
literally.
You can maintain it much easier once you've done the detoxification. And once you have that going for you, it's like you can just choose when you want to experience it. Like anytime if I even sit for a second in meditation without even really doing much, I can just decide to breathe through a certain chakra instead of like through my mouth. I'll visualize breathing through my third eye or something like this, right? I'll visualize that breathing through that energy center, and I can literally feel like electricity pleasure going through that whole center. And then if I want to do it in some other center, I can feel it penetrating through that center, just because that has been awakened in me. I can have access to that, and it's phenomenal. It's like such a beautiful experience. I mean, just like a sexual orgasm is like one small dimension of that feeling. You can have that feeling literally by yourself in sitting in meditation with Kundalini. You can have it throughout your entire body, not just one lower energy center, which is what we would consider that to be in a like sexual act, but you can move it and have that same feeling throughout the chakras and also throughout your entire body, and it's like amplified times 1,000. So it's such an amazing gift that we have this ability, and we can experience it in this lifetime. So
yeah,
don't miss out.
Yeah. And so I saw one question as well that kind of relates to this, and on the physical level, there are blockages, and on the energetic level as well. So Prasiddha is talking about the chakras, and we're talking about the granthis, or the knots that need to be pierced, that the guru can pierce. He initiates you into not only like Kundalini awakening, but certain practices. One of those that I just mentioned was the Shuddhi Kriyas, and somebody's bringing this up, is doing enema every day, also known as Jalabasti, which is one of the daily Kriyas. What type of effect does that have? Should it be done weekly or daily? And just on the physical level, first and foremost, is that you're like physically, you can block energy from coming up and raising, because the whole purpose of Kundalini is to raise it up to the Sahasrara chakra, piercing it all the way through the entire body. But just on the energetic level, there are blockages. Physically, you can block that as well. If you have a bunch of legitimate shit in your body that's just sitting there, becoming just like full of toxins, that affects your ability to raise Kundalini. So yes, enema is one of those practices to get rid of all of that junk out of your system. And there's even doctors that we just learned about that are actually encouraging daily enemas, because it's the left side of the colon, right, that actually doesn't get cleansed from just a basic going to just going to the bathroom. Yeah. So the whole purpose of enema is actually, it's cleansing that left side of the colon that doesn't get cleansed normally. And it does this in a safe way. It doesn't like get to any other region. So it helps cleanse out that area, keep it clean, detoxified, so no gut bacteria is building up anywhere. Kundalini can flow a lot easier. And then on the same end, the gut bacteria, we're taking Harataki. This is as a part of our Shuddhi Kriyas, because it keeps that gut bacteria healthy. It should be taken every day. It really doesn't depend on your dosha. However, if you have a specific ailment, that's a whole nother story as well. Would you be able to speak a little bit on that, on using even things like castor oil? So Swamiji has also mentioned to us to be consuming castor oil, 1 teaspoon a day of castor oil. There are some people that are taking a little bit more, but this is just another process to keep the entire gut, the entire system clean, pure. It's like, just flush it all out of you. That's the whole thing that he's working on.
Yeah, castor oil is very well known in Ayurveda to be like a laxative, basically. I mean, that's one of its main properties. So when you take it, like when you take a spoonful or something, it's often taken when somebody is having severe constipation or has some issue in their stomach that they need to flush out, or they're going through a detoxification process in Ayurveda, like the healing sciences that kind of reset your body. You take castor oil for that reason. So I can totally understand why Swamiji has been recommending that as well, because it's another way to keep the GI completely clear. And literally in yoga and Ayurveda, every single disease comes from your digestive system, every single disease. And modern science is now understanding that it's inseparable from every other system we have in our body. It's interconnected. So any issue we have there reflects in every other aspect, whether it's your skin, your lymph, your endocrine system is all affected by your digestive system. So every disease can come out of that. So it's so essential to, number one, have a balanced diet for your body. Number two, to be actually really, we have to, just like a car, and I think we're a lot in this mindset in the West, we've never been told that we have to do this. It's like we think that our body maintains itself, And to a certain extent it does, but to a certain extent it doesn't. We just like a car, like we take care of our car, right? We do oil changes every few months. We take our car into the shop every year to get a checkup and to get little things fixed here and there. We have to do that with our body. Our body is an even more minute, detailed vehicle that is so specific. We have to touch it up. We have to touch it. And every single day in the Vedic sciences, you are supposed to upkeep your body every day. Every day, all of your sensory organs need to be addressed. All of your sensory organs need to be cleansed. And your digestive system has to be regulated every single day. So it's so essential to do these practices. So the more you can incorporate, the better. That's all, really.
100%. And somebody's asking, is this something like a food grade castor oil? You certainly want to make sure that it's organic and natural. Some labels will probably certainly say don't take it because it's not necessarily designed. And
no, just because in the West, it's not eaten like that. But it's a huge part of the Eastern culture to be taken, and a huge part of Ayurveda. So there's a lot of herbs in the US that are even banned, that are so amazing. They're just plant medicine. They have zero negative side effects, and they're not even allowed to be in the US. So it's, you have to take everything that our nutritional system, especially the FDA, says with a huge grain of salt. Maybe like 15 grains of salt. Because it's a lot of it's vested interest, then it's not about actual health. It's not about your benefit. It's like a system that's benefiting from it,
Yeah.
Is there any other questions before we end here that you got there? Anyone? Last questions before we sign off? Thank you guys for tuning in. It was awesome to hear sorry we didn't address all the comments, but we've been seeing them, and I really love your guys' interaction.
Just in the meantime, if you are new to the channel and you don't know who I am or my wife is, this is the Kundalini Yogini, Ma Nithya Prasiddhananda. That's her YouTube channel. And you can find her on other social media platforms as well. And then my handle is Blissful Athlete. You can check out both our YouTubes and Instagrams, even TikTok. We're getting a little bit active on TikTok too. So if you want to check out and see our more day-to-day life and how we are handling our lives.
I saw somebody ask if we pull with coconut oil. Yes. Oil pulling is an amazing part of daily routine. Recommended to do every single morning after you brush your teeth, or before, whatever you prefer. But you rinse, you take a spoonful of the coconut oil and you swish. You do a gargling with it and spit it out. It's really amazing for your mouth health, for cleaning your teeth. It even whitens your teeth, takes out all the like little things that get stuck inside of our teeth and gums. So it's a very great process. And I saw somebody was asking too, Daryl was asking how long does the pickled ginger last? That'll last, actually it lasts like a little bit, but it's better to have fresh as possible. So you can make it for like a week, maybe 2 max, as long as it's in a sealed container. But then you should make it fresh, and even if daily you can slice a few pieces, or every few days, that's always best. And
ginger and honey?
Ginger and honey. What about ginger and honey specifically? Ginger and honey, they're huge, huge healers in Ayurveda. Ginger is amazing for your digestive fire. Really, really great for most people to take daily, although if you are a little more pitta imbalanced, ginger, you might want to refrain from as much ginger. But you can take ginger, of course, daily before the meal, like I shared. I think you guys saw that. You can have the pickled ginger before every meal. That just helps with your digestion in general, no matter what. Share that? Your body type on TikTok.
Oh.
I shared that, and I think on Instagram as well, and actually Facebook probably too. I think I shared it everywhere.
Shared it everywhere.
And what do you know about kratom? Is it healthy for pain? I don't know too much about kratom, but I know the Ayurvedic version, sort of, so to speak, is called Shilajit. It's an amazing rasayana, which is considered like a longevity promotion herb and kind of like an anti-aging property. And it's used for specific conditions as well. Very, very powerful. I think they even use it in diabetes as well in Ayurveda to heal diabetes. But it's really expensive, so you have to be careful with it. But if you can afford it, it's an amazing supplement to take. And
somebody's asking about coffee as well.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with coffee. It is loaded with antioxidants. The problem is the caffeine. If you're consuming a lot of caffeine, it's not necessarily the best for your system. And from my experience, the more conscious I've become, the more like in tuned and like the cleaner my diet's been, especially since switching to a Nirahara, all liquid diet, I notice caffeine, like just the hint of it, and it just affects my system in such a negative way. So just, I would highly recommend avoiding drinking. I see that you're saying you're having 5 cups. That's a lot of caffeine to have.
No, and even if it's not, I just wanted to add in, actually, even if it's not caffeinated, coffee is extremely acidic. So, I mean, from an Ayurvedic lens, it's it does not balance your doshas. It is not sattvic. So it aggravates pitta. It's extremely acidic to your gut. Even if it's decaf, it's still acidic to your gut and still throws your system off, makes your body really dry and hot. So if you notice that you already have issues with that, especially if you're already a hot person, you have a lot of heat in the body, you sweat easily, you have acid reflux or heartburn, you really, really, really should not drink any coffee, even if it's decaf. Yeah. That's just, of course, living at the peak potential. Even we have coffee, but we have it much less now. Like, we try to limit it to certain days where we'll enjoy it as like a treat, but it's also always decaf. But even that, I know I'm gonna transition out of completely because it's still not good for my dosha. Yeah. Well, it was so great. Thank you. Those were great questions, guys. I really appreciate it. I hope that this podcast was helpful for you all. And we will put up the audio, as always, on our Podbean, Spotify, and iTunes. So whatever is easiest access for you guys, definitely subscribe to there as well. So even if you're driving and it's easier, audio is sometimes really nice, when you're doing stuff. So share it, save it. We would love to have more questions from you guys on the next episodes.
Absolutely. And you can always just post us or connect with us on our other social media platforms, and maybe we can answer those questions throughout the week or just do later videos. So
perfect.
Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. This was awesome. We will see you guys again next weekend, and we'll close with the Purna Mantra.
Beautiful. Nithyananda, everyone.
Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sarvam Bhagavan Sri Nithyananda Paramashivam Paduka Paramastu. Om Nithyanandam. Awesome. Nithyanandam, everybody.